Good evening. Thank you for coming to the Berkeley-Somerset Regional High School School Committee meeting of September the 14th. Let the record show that the meeting was called to order at 6:44 p.m., due notice having been posted. Let the record show that this meeting is being electronically recorded, and if anyone in the audience also wishes to electronically record this meeting, you should notify the committee at this time. Any such recording may be subject to reasonable restrictions imposed by the chair to the extent permitted under the open meeting law. Roll call of members present. Mr. Gilladucci? Here. Mrs. Gagliardi? Here. Mrs. Terra? Here. And I'm Dean Larrabee. Mr. Pierce is traveling and unable to attend, but he may be calling in later on. He did notify the committee that he'd like to participate remotely. Mr. Machado has a prior engagement, and Mrs. Field is traveling. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next scheduled meeting of the Regional School Committee will be Thursday, October 3rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Somerset Berkeley Regional High School Library. First on the agenda is Student Achievement, Teaching, and Learning, and I'll turn this over to Superintendent Schoonover.
Thank you, Mr. Larrabee. So our first item tonight is to recognize Benjamin Meadows and Eric Rogers for earning recognition for the Art All-State, and with Eric and Ben is Mrs. Troutman, so I will let her really introduce the students and they can talk about their experience that they had this past June. But before that happens, since Mrs. Troutman is here, we just want to, I think we've mentioned it at a meeting, a few meetings past, but congratulations on another second-time recipient for some funds to continue envisioning Somerset, correct?
Thank you so much.
What will that entail?
That will be repeating the historical aspect of meeting with Marion McDonald, having the students travel on a field trip throughout town so they're able to visit and view and learn about historic sites. Some of them that still exist, some of them will just be the locations. And the students will be encouraged to photograph during that field trip, but also all different locations within Somerset and Berkeley, so that we're going to be able to replace the existing banners and have new photos up around town.
And was the grant through the Hathaway Foundation?
Yes.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So if you would like to introduce our students?
So I'm going to give you kind of a brief intro of what Art All-State is, and then I'll let Ben and Eric talk about what they were able to do. So Art All-State is a 2-day program that immerses junior art students from across the state into a collaborative art-making experience. The juniors work with practicing artists, first visiting art museums and galleries, and this was at UMass Dartmouth as well as in New Bedford, going to galleries that had different exhibits up that they were able to visit. They viewed and analyzed the artwork, and then they worked in groups to come up with designs so that they constructed interactive walk-through environment installations, which you'll get to see some photos of in just a minute. At a reception, after 2 days of them working on these submersive environments, parents, family, friends, and teachers were invited to walk through the art installations. Not only was I impressed with the work that was created, but I was even more impressed with how Ben and Eric really became leaders within their small groups. They were definitely split up within these students from all across Massachusetts. And something that I noticed that you'll see in the image is that Art All-State had an Instagram page that they really only posted about 6 images from the event. And these guys were featured 3 times within their Instagram. So I think that says a lot that they really were a huge contribution to each of the groups that they worked with. Again, the experience really showcases how the arts are such an important part for teaching 21st century skills. They were working with collaboration, thinking about creativity, critical thinking, and definitely problem solving. I'm going to introduce Eric and Ben now, and as I go through the slideshow, I'm going to let them talk about some of the experiences that they had.
Well, I'm Eric Rogers. I'm Ben. And so I'll just go over like kind of the experience for me. So when Mrs. Troutman first came to me, like asking if I wanted to be an art LC, I didn't really like think of myself as this like big artist, like you know, like this artistic mind, but you know, like her kind of helping me along and like just like giving me the confidence to be able to explore and navigate my own artistic abilities and just really try to push forward in my artistic, you know, abilities, yeah. Just like really helped me and really gave me the confidence to just do things that, other than art, just things that I didn't think I would be able to do in life, like talk in front of people, or you know, groups, or you know, just like simple things that I'd never like imagined like having the confidence to get up and do. This program gave me the confidence to do, and like made me realize that it doesn't matter who you are. If you make the best of something, it'll come out amazing. So yeah.
Going off what you said with pushing, the actual like all the all the actual like pre-stuff to being able to go to this, she really had to push us through that because it was 7 days.
7 days, yeah.
7 days. We didn't know about it till really last minute, and just like going through all those essays and posting our artwork and making sure everything looked good, and going to the it was a few months later, we had to go to a panel of judges and talk to them about our artwork and everything like that.
Before they even were accepted into the program,
Yeah.
there was an interview process.
Strenuous.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely having that short time frame made it that much more
Yeah.
strenuous, but being able to push through like really forced us to like think about who we are as artists and who we are as people and how we want to go about like even describing ourselves to the judges for how we would support the program. So
Yeah.
it was something else.
Yeah, it really was. Also, just kind of going off that the whole writing thing, it kind of, for me at least, it helped me, like the interview process kind of helped me to be able to word things more creatively and become like a better writer and really just like see what art has in my future. Because one of the main questions was, in your future, what do you see art being like as a part of your life? So that like it just really made me like kind of look at myself and realize like what kind of role does art play in my life? And it really helped like me as a person like grow in this past year as an artist, not only but as you know what I want to do in college, what I would like to see in the future of my life.
But yeah, outside of just the application process and everything, the actual Art All-State experience itself is fantastic. You stay at the UMass dorms for 2 days and you work with people from all over the state. My group was mostly people from Western Mass and then the greater Boston area. So just being able to experience like the tiny differences in culture from around Massachusetts and talk to new people and meet new people, it's just crazy to just see what other people from different areas are thinking of and how people have different mindsets just depending on whatever their situation's like. And it's just like, it was just amazing to just meet that many different people and build that many connections. And both of us still talk to the people that we work with a lot. It's like another friend group. I know you
Yeah.
went to Boston to see all.
Yeah,
all
and
right?
actually we're going apple picking or something. I know this doesn't really matter, but so just like kind of key into that fact that yeah, although it's just 2 days, the people that we meet, like you know, the friendships last, you know, because having to work in that environment of okay, we have 2 days to do this thing, you kind of mesh together in a weird way, and like you all just become like immediate friends. Like the best memories I have from this aren't of making art, but of like you know just like dancing and stuff to like stupid songs playing while sewing together like endless amounts of flippin', what are they called?
Yeah.
Pipe cleaners. That was one of our materials was pipe cleaners. So we had to make this huge wave. I think you have part of it. Yeah, that in the background. That's all single pipe cleaners. It was awful, but it was awesome at the same time because that was like our white whale basically, right? So that was like we all banded together and like got that thing done, and it just like brought us all together as a group. I don't know how, but yeah, it was just an awesome experience, and I've made friends that I'll never lose, and it's kind of great.
A big part of it though. The pipe cleaners, we always had like the weirdest of supplies given to us. Like I had gauze pads and sticks And it was like, all right, go have fun. We're not telling you anything now.
Yeah.
And you get 2 artist mentors, which are really fantastic. Mine's were Jojo and Rosa. Jojo is from Sweden, and Rosa was from Colombia, I believe. But like they're crazy. Like meeting those people, and they're successful artists, and they have so much experience. And being able to talk to them and bounce ideas off them in a group was incredible. Just like, how do I use these sticks? And it's like, here's 500 million ideas. And it's just like incredible for like expanding how you view whatever you have.
Yeah, exactly. Making the most out of nothing, basically.
Yeah,
Like literal, like I had plastic bags and paper, so literal trash, making it into something that's, you know, pleasing to the eye. And, you know, you can like walk through and like see something. You know, it's not just like a plastic bag. It becomes a jellyfish, or you know, it becomes sea foam or something. So that was just like really awesome to like not only expand my viewpoint, but to like see other people's viewpoints and to like see what other people had to bring to the table. That it wasn't just me. That like other people had either similar ideas or totally different ideas that were way better. Like now I have that like thought process in my mind.
One last thing, my photos kind of really zoom in their photos of you guys, but each of these installations, when they worked in the groups had to come up with a theme of what it was. So will you each quickly tell what your theme was?
Mine was like some demented carnival thing going on. Our group was a little bit torn on that. That was like our biggest downfall of what our theme was. Because some people wanted some tree, and it was gonna be like tree of life, and it was gonna be super cool, and other people wanted like a tunnel, and it was gonna be a circus. And like it all just kind of, yeah, it did come out cool, but it was just kind of all over the place. But it became like the circus, and we had like kind of like hints of like horror-esque films, and then so like there were like hands in the background being casted as silhouettes. And one of our big projects, we had this massive stick thing with boxes around it that somewhat resembled a tree, somewhat resembled like the top of the tent where it like comes in, and we taped it to the ceiling and then suspended it. All the rooms had lights that like, they're not like done in here, but they like hung off the sides, so they had huge supports on them. And we hung them up with gauze everywhere, and like had to grate it. And so yeah, yours made a lot more sense as a theme.
Well, actually, like most of it was weird, like seeing like, because after everybody made their installations, all the kids got to walk around and see the other students' like installations and see what they had come up with and kind of compare them. And it was weird because all the kind of installations had like this central theme of like creepy horror, which was strange to me, but for some reason our team thought like, oh yeah, we'll do like life under the sea, man, like, yeah. So we just did a big wave, obviously made out of pipe cleaners, and then like we just made like a bunch of like really colorful like fish and jellyfish out of the pipe cleaners and plastic bags, and really utilized whatever we could. But so yeah, it was like really bright and fun, and
You had some cool stuff with like legs and fans.
yeah. So that's another thing too. So when you're walking into the wave, we kind of so that part we kind of made it like really dark and dingy, like because we wanted it to be like under the ground, like pollution in the water and stuff. And then like once you walk through the wave, it's kind of like the wave crashing. It's really bright and loud. And the main reason we did that is because in there were like 2 weird sections of the room. So the first section was kind of dark and claustrophobic, and then there was this other part, the farther part from the doorway, and it was just like open and bright. And like if you took one step from one side to the other, it literally felt like a whole nother room. So we kind of wanted to capitalize on that whole like feeling that these were 2 totally different scenes, really. That one scene was like kind of under the water, and the other scene was this big cascading waterfall. And I mean, in the time that we had and the materials that we were allotted, it came out pretty cool. And I'm glad we did it. So, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Mrs. Trevin, would you share what we were talking about before the meeting started about the length of time between Eric and Ben? And
Art Allstate is something that our school hasn't participated in about 13 years. And so we were very excited that when we did submit their applications, that they only allow you to recommend 2 people. Not only did they both get accepted, usually only one person is accepted, but this I think hopefully is going to start a newfound cooperation where every year we're going to encourage more and more juniors to apply so that they'll be able to do this. enthusiastic about what they created. I think it was a very good experience for them. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have two citations to read. The first one is for Benjamin Matos. It says, "Dear Benjamin, the Somerset Berkeley Regional School Committee is proud to honor you with this citation for achieving Art All-State 2017. Citation. Whereas Benjamin T. Matos, achieved acceptance of the highest and most coveted honor for Massachusetts high school art students, attaining the rank of Art All-State 2017. Whereas he fulfilled the requirements for this prestigious honor by possessing exceptional artistic drive, creative ideas, and commitment to his craft. Whereas he worked collaboratively with artists and art students engaging in problem solving and exploring the role of art in society, be it hereby resolved, the members of the Somerset Berkeley Regional School Committee recognize Benjamin T. Matos's outstanding achievement and extend best wishes for continued success in his future endeavors." And I have a second citation for Eric Rogers. "Dear Eric, the Somerset Berkeley Regional School Committee is proud to honor you with this citation for achieving Art All-State 2017. Citation, whereas Eric W. M. Rogers achieved acceptance of the highest and most coveted honor for Massachusetts high school art students, attaining the rank of Art All-State 2017, whereas he fulfilled the requirements for this prestigious honor by possessing exceptional artistic drive, creative ideas, and commitment to his craft, whereas he worked collaboratively with artists and art students engaging in problem solving and exploring the role of art in society, be it hereby resolved, the members of the Somerset Berkeley Regional School Committee recognize Eric W. M. Rogers' outstanding achievement and extend best wishes for continued successes in all his future endeavors."
Thank you.
Congratulations.
How about a word for their teacher?
Oh, yeah.
Dean, can I ask the folks a question? This must have been tremendous for you folks to be in an environment where, I'm not saying the minds think alike, but you're surrounded by a group of folks who think like you.
Absolutely.
Versus out of the classroom over here where it's everyday stuff, but it must be a great experience to just get that general knowledge from the, how big was the group that you folks dealt with up there?
It was for each of us, it was about 20,
I had
Oh,
like
10 to 20 kids, depending on the group.
200 overall?
Yeah, 200 overall.
oh, okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Rewarding, very rewarding.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
It's definitely a different experience to get, like you said, people with similar mindsets over the normal classroom where there might be a kid who's just there because they need the credits, right?
Yeah.
And so like just being able to be there and be really accepted just for how you think was fantastic.
Yeah, and it was also really cool to like kind of coming off of what Ben said earlier was like even though we all came from kind of like different walks of life, different cultures, different maybe political views, different basically everything but our love for art, we still were able to like kind of come together in that love for art and do something awesome, which was really cool and
Excellent,
just awesome.
very good.
So next on the agenda this evening is marching band request to attend a trip to Disney World in April of 2018.
Yes, excellent. A tough act to follow, right? Again, all I could think of during their presentation is how lucky we are here at Somerset Berkeley Regional High School and in our communities with all the opportunities for art and music as well. So, great job, guys. That was really exceptional. So, every 4 years, what we've tried to provide, and we've done this for quite a large amount of time now, the music department, I know I said marching band on there, but it's actually all of the music groups that go. So it'd be the concert band, the marching band, both of our show choirs, the concert choir, and the orchestra are the groups that would be going to Disney World. And we afford them this opportunity so that at least once in their 4 years here at the high school, they get to perform on one of the biggest national stages in our country. In the past, we've gone with World Class Vacations, and that's the group, the travel agent that we'd be going with this time. The numbers that you have in front of you have actually grown a little bit. You see that there are 219 total participants, 150 of which are students. We're up to about 175 students that are interested in going, and the amount of parents that have asked to go on top of that, we're looking at around 250 music students and parents and family going with us. So the dates for that are April 20th through the 24th, and we've talked to Mr. Lanzinski about this before we brought this to your attention, because 2 of those are school days. Unfortunately, Disney has so many groups that apply to perform there that they only have so much time and so much space. And so for our groups, they allotted us performance times that fall on the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday during that time period, which Mr. Bianco will talk about when we talk about the itinerary, or the preliminary itinerary. So what's wonderful about this number is that we do have, as far as adults to students, with that larger group, we have a 3-to-1 ratio. So we're quite pleased that we had enough parents that allotted that for us. The estimated costs are there. I'm happy to say that that is the high end of the cost. We're actually looking at a few things that will lower that before we even get to the fundraising portion of it with the Friends of Music, for which we're going to be meeting with next Tuesday to start the process of fundraising to bring everything down. So the quad rooms there are $13.99. All of the rooms, we're including a $122 meal plan that World Class Vacations has put together for us. And what's wonderful about that is that's breakfast and dinner every day that we're there, for a total of $122 per person. So if we didn't go with that meal plan, just them spending alone would far exceed that amount of money. So it's a great opportunity for us to utilize that from World Class Vacations. The triple is $14.44. For the most part, our numbers are going to be looking that we'll be able to get everybody into a quad room, and if we can't, we're going to try to supplement the funds for the kids so that every student is paying $13.99 and not having to pay the triple rate. And then, of course, for the adults, if they're looking to get a double or single room, those options are available. For us to start now, we'd be looking at a 5-payment plan. We're trying to space it out as far as we possibly can to make it as feasible as possible. So you can see for the students, each payment is around $305. So the question has to be, for that amount of money, what are they getting? So with World Class Vacations, they get a non-stop direct air flight from TF Green to Orlando. And the way that that works, and what's wonderful about that, we'll have, if not 2 planes, we'll definitely have 1 plane that is just our students. And with the number that we're looking at, we might be able to actually have 2 planes. One would be Southwest, the other would be JetBlue, is what they're looking at right now. We would leave around 7:30 in the morning on that Friday, and the kids are in the park by 11:30. All of their luggage and all of our equipment, World Class Vacations takes it for us and brings it to the hotel. They have a box truck that'll be down there for our usage. So they take everything from the plane, they bring it down there. The kids spend the day in the park. When they get back afterwards, all of their luggage and all of our equipment is there. So that's one thing that we get from World Class Vacations that we don't from many others, because World Class Vacations is the only one that's actually in Disney World as far as performance group tour companies. So transportation to and from the airport in Orlando to Walt Disney World. Also, transportation to our performances. Now, because we're staying, and again, Mr. Bianco will talk about the hotel there, because we're staying on property, that means that anytime that we're going to one of the parks, we just get on Disney transportation. And of course, Disney transportation, the entire time that they're open, is just constantly moving. So we don't have to worry about any separate costs for transportation. However, some of the performance areas, you have to go through the back lots to get to, which is very exciting for the kids to see behind the scenes at Walt Disney World. So in order to get to those places, Disney doesn't provide transportation, so World Class Vacations has buses there for us to bring the kids. For instance, when the marching band marches down Main Street, to get them there, the bus has to bring them through the back lots of Walt Disney World. So that comes with it. The 5-day park hopper pass for Walt Disney World, that's kind of the highest one that we can get. We're talking with them about taking the hopper part out, so that we decide we're going to this park on this day, and that'll take some money off of it. Additionally, one of our performance days that Mr. Bianco will talk about, we have so many performances in that particular day, and we're so fortunate that a lot of the kids cross-culminate between the groups. You might have a student that's playing trumpet, and the concert band is singing in the choir with Mr. Bianco, and then they're playing the cello with the orchestra. So because the way they schedule that, all of those performances don't happen back to back. They're spaced out. We were thinking it might be better to not go to a park that day. Give the kids the opportunity to shop at Disney Springs and then go back to the hotel, enjoy the pool there. So if we do that, we can knock the price down by $200. So when we meet with all of the parents and the students and the travel agent, that's going to be the topic of conversation to see if that's something that they would be interested in. Because otherwise, we spend the money on that day in the park, and it's going to be, you know, maybe 2 or 3 hours there, and it's just better that we don't do that, and the kids get to enjoy the other days, you know, a nice long time in the park. It comes with all the accommodations at one of those 2 resorts. And the meal plan, as I said, breakfast and dinner. It covers all the workshops and performances. Each one of the groups will get to perform on a stage somewhere in the Walt Disney World Resort where anybody that's in the park will be able to see them, and all the parents will have an opportunity to watch the performance. And then the workshops, a lot of them take place behind the scenes, backstage. So we, like for instance, the concert band will get to do like a film scoring session, and they'll go in a film scoring stage in the back lot of Disney World, where some of the rehearsals happen for the filming, the scoring of actual Disney films, which is really an exciting thing. The representative from World Class Vacations will be with us 24/7. Not the last trip, but 8 years ago, there was a big thunderstorm when we were down there, and we made the decision to bring the kids back to the hotel. And when I told Mr. Lacey, who was the representative, and he'll be with us this time, that we were going to have to do that, it was raining too much. And it was the day in Magic Kingdom, the last 3 hours that they could have been in there. He went like that, made a bunch of phone calls. When every kid got back to the hotel room, there was 2 bottles of soda, two large pizzas. You know, they do anything that they possibly can to make sure that the kids have a great experience. If something goes wrong, they're right there. We've got medical personnel with us. So it's really nice to have somebody that we can look to say, okay, I need you to work on this, and we keep our eyes on the kids. So he's our behind-the-scenes person. Another wonderful part of working with World Class Vacations, we'll have 2 security guards on property that are just for us from 11 p.m. every night to 5 a.m. in the morning. And their job is to watch all those rooms and make sure that the kids are safe. We're so far away from home, we think that was a feature that we needed to put in there. And of course, we get the free use of the storage box truck. So similar to the trailer that we have here, instead of driving it all the way down to Florida, they'll have one there for us. And it's driven, secured, and maintained by them. So the only things that are not included in the price is lunch each day in the park. They're going to be in their small groups and moving around. So they'll be told to bring money with them for those meals. Personal spending money. And the transportation to and from TF Green Airport. So what we're going to do with that, we're going to talk to the Somerset Friends of Music. They've done this in the past. We'll ask them if they could donate the cost of the buses. We'll hire Fisher buses to bring us to the airport and pick us back up. And they've been generous in the past to do that, as I've said. Also, string basses and cellos don't do well in the belly of an airplane. So they have some companies down there that rent those, and that comes at a different cost. And again, that's something we talk to the Friends of Music and see if they can do. And of course, we always tell the children, you cannot be over 50 pounds in your luggage, or Southwest Airlines will tell you you need to pay $75. So we're very cognizant of that. So what I've done in the past is I bring my little scale from home just before we leave. Why don't you weigh that, kiddo? Yeah, that's 65 pounds. We need to move some things around. So if that happens when we're there, though, that would be another cost. So I'll pass the ball to you, Mr. Bianco, about the hotels and the itinerary.
Thank you. So we're looking to stay at either the Pop Century Resort or the All-Star Music Resort. Historically, the group has stayed at All-Star Music, but the last time they put us at Pop Century, it's their newest one of their budget hotel line. It's still being negotiated by how many our final number is and what their availability is. But both of them feature, and the reason that we like to go with these ones other than they're on property, is they feature full walls, 5 floors, I believe?
Yeah.
And that all just look out at a parking lot. That's where we station our security guards. They sit in those cars, and they look at the wall. And their job is, if any door opens at any point in time, we get a phone call immediately, and the security guard then goes to that door. That might be they are opening the door because a kid is sick and they want some attention. It might be they're opening the door because they are doing something they're not supposed to be doing, but either way we know immediately and can kibosh anything. So I love that feature about the hotel, because some of those hotels are crazy and all over the place and you'd never be able to find people. So we specifically choose one of these two. Our itinerary, obviously preliminary, is on Friday, April 20th. We'd meet here real early, make sure everybody was all set to go. Everybody had all their luggage. We'd weigh the luggage the night before at check-in and all of that stuff. Get on those buses from hopefully the Friends of Music and get to TF Green. Take the first 2 direct flights out. When we land, as he mentioned, it's really, really nice for the kids. We get off the plane and we get on buses and they're in the park. We don't worry about the luggage, we don't worry about the hotel, we don't worry about anything. We just go to the park and we start having fun. The travel agent puts all the bags in the rooms, and when we get back, we hand out the keys, and they check into their rooms and their bags are waiting for them. And so that's the day we do Disney Park number 1. Traditionally, it's been Hollywood Studios because Fantasmic is weather permitting, so we want to make sure that we can see that one right away, or unless we have to go back at some other time. The next morning, Saturday, April 21st, we get up. Every morning we meet at the hotel's cafeteria, all together. Make sure that all the chaperones are with all of their kids. They all take attendance. They get their meal ticket for the morning. We all eat together, and then we all get on the buses together. Make sure we're moving as a big group as much as possible. And that day, the marching band will march down probably Main Street, USA, which I'm not at all involved with the marching band, and that's one of my favorite parts. Like, it's just really cool to see those kids coming down at that street and everybody cheering. So we gather all the kids on Main Street about 20 minutes before, we get some seats, and we just cheer our heads off, and it's really exciting, if I'm being honest. So we stay that night to see the show. That's the fireworks in Magic Kingdom. The next day is workshop day. So this is the day that word classification really comes in handy. Because this day, there's workshops for concert band and wind ensemble, concert choir chorale, orchestra string ensemble, and the show choirs. And they're all at different times and in different locations. So what happens on this day is each different chaperone group will have a different itinerary and schedule to either go with Mr. Marshall or myself or Mrs. Adoro, depending on which group they're in at the moment. And first thing in the morning, at the back lot at Disney Springs, the choirs will do their workshop. Which he mentioned the band one, the chorus one, we become the voice actors. The last time we did it, we became Beauty and the Beast, the opening scene, and they picked a soloist, and that girl was Belle, and she got to voice the lines, and they gave us a DVD, and we can see Jackie Ellis as Belle from Beauty and the Beast whenever we want, and it's very, very cool. And then in the middle of the day is the band and orchestra together,
Correct.
and then at night is the show choir stuff. So the reason that we were thinking about, workshop days.
With the workshops, the kids,
They go
each
to the
individual
park.
kid has to pick one of those. Oh, I'm going
Right.
to go with this group, I'm going to go with that group, so they still have the time in the park.
Right, that way they're not out the whole day. So they get one workshop, and World Classifications gets us there and back to the park. And then on Monday, that's the performance day in Disney Springs. So the way that they do that is they're going to find the biggest group in the country that is there that day, and they're going to go first. And then they're slowly going to take away equipment down and down and down until they got to the smallest group. So our groups are fairly large, but they're probably not the largest in the country, and they're not similar in size. So we're going to be spread out like he said. But the time that is not used to either be watching your friends perform or performing yourself has Disney Springs, which has a ton to do. It was Downtown Disney for those of you who haven't been there in a couple of years. And then we're planning on doing a Planet Hollywood dinner with everybody together there, just as something to get everybody together that night after all the concerts, and then going back to the hotel. Because last year, the kids actually asked, or 4 years ago, the kids asked, while in Magic Kingdom, we're kind of tired, can we just go to the pool? What?
One of the old ones.
We were ready to go. I was ready to ride Space Mountain for the 4th time. So we plan on just doing something like that for them and planning that in, since that's what they usually ask for anyway. Then the final day, we would travel it back home. That's the day that we would hit our final park that we haven't made it to yet for the morning. We would get as many hours in the park as possible, and then get to the airport and fly home and be ready for school the next day. We have talked to the kids already who have put in intent forms about, they have to submit all of their work before they leave for Disney. If it's due that Monday and Tuesday, it would need to be in. We're leaving on Friday, submit it digitally Thursday night. Make sure that everything is in and ready to go, so that way they can just come back to school on Wednesday and not be behind at all.
We have, they're looking at a very early afternoon flight for us. So
Yes.
they'll probably be leaving at 2 o'clock. Realistically so, the kids will be back in Somerset at 6 or 7 o'clock. Yeah.
So the following pages that you have are more for your reference than we need to speak at you about, but we have all of the nurse stuff, medication forms, health forms, all of the information about the Transportation and Travel Agency. We have a chaperone packet. The information's for the chaperones. All chaperones will be Corey checked and have to adhere to all of the rules. A list of venues we're at, and all rules and regulations. And obviously, you can't click on links here on this piece of paper, but we have the full handbook and the full everything linked to this digitally and available to the students should they need to review anything.
And we have met with Mr. Lanzinski and gone over
Correct.
everything with him as well. And he did say to us, as long as the kids have an understanding of their academic responsibilities, that those 2 days off wouldn't be a problem.
I have a comment. So my eldest daughter went, she was in the band, I think it was like 2005.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And it was very well organized then, and it just seemed so much better. And there was no complaints, the kids had a blast, everything was safe, and I really never heard any negative feedback from any of the trips. I think when my other daughter was in show choir, they didn't go to Florida that time.
Nope, this is the first time for show choir.
I know, so,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think this is great having the best puts together, so. I think this is very well organized,
Thank you, we appreciate that.
as always.
Well, I went 4 years ago, and it was well organized. And it was great. The best part was watching the marching band.
So much fun.
And I'm glad to see that you plugged in rest time, because I think that was one thing
Yes.
that people complained about, that it was going. The kids even complained about that. It was really.
We're always
nonstop.
assessing, like, okay,
Yeah.
we need to put that in.
So,
I've never slept so well in my life
Yeah.
as those nights.
It was tough. But I could see that. So, and again, you guys are right on top with your paperwork, so thank you so much.
Perfect.
It makes it really easy to look at.
Any other questions or comments?
I think it's great.
I just wanted to, when was the last trip to Disney? You said it was
4 years ago.
4 years? So
Yeah,
it's every 4
we
years?
do it every 4 years so that every student gets the opportunity.
When do you anticipate having the final itinerary? Is it something that forms a?
We're going to meet with the Friends of Music about fundraising, and then we want to plan a meeting with the travel agent. We're looking at the 26th of this month. So really by mid-October, we should have all the finalized details.
Does the itinerary have to come back to us, Mr. Stewart, or can we approve it?
We can approve it with what we have here.
It may be a
And we'll be
change
glad
up
to
last
send,
minute.
once everything is,
Absolutely.
yes.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Of course. And Disney is the most, the busiest vacation I've ever been on, the least relaxing vacation I've ever been on.
Yes.
Is the security guards, is that new, or is that something you've done in the past?
No, we've done that in
Always
the
been
past
that
as
way,
well.
yeah.
They'll be nurse, because I know we had some medical issues on. 4
We
years
already
ago.
have 2
I
registered.
would actually have
Three
three
registered,
registered
yeah.
nurses that are parents that are coming with us. And of
Yeah.
course, the second they write that in the paperwork, they get a phone call.
They're in.
And they work so hard, those nurses.
Yes.
Those
Especially in
nurses.
that particular trip, I know we
Yeah.
had a couple of issues, so
Mhm.
that was good to have them there.
So I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve the preliminary itinerary for the proposed trip to Disney World, Orlando, Florida, April 20th to 24th of 2018.
So moved.
Second.
I don't have to take a roll call, right?
No, we don't.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
so much.
time
I
and
appreciate
your
it.
support. We'll let you know how everything goes, and we'll make sure that we send that itinerary to you
Send
as well.
videos, pictures.
Thank you.
Oh, there'll be plenty. Thank you.
Especially for
Thank you
show
very much.
choir.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
That was, I can't wait to see it, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
The next item on this evening's agenda is the student representatives report. We do not have a student representative yet. When's the election scheduled to be held?
Student elections are usually takes place in early October. So
So our next meeting is the
I
3rd.
hope our next meeting, if not, will be the one after that.
So we will have a student representatives report that will take place beginning in the month of October. Next item is superintendent's report.
Okay, I did share something with the committee earlier today. I'm not sure if you have it, but I think you have at least a paper copy in front of you. At this time of the year, I always like to give both school committees a quick update on student enrollment for the beginning of the school year. What I did this year was just to show really what happens over the last 2 weeks of school and from really mid-August until school begins. So first of all, we have 1,002 students as of today enrolled in grades 9 through 12. You can see the numbers that we have: 252 freshmen, 273 sophomores, 262 in grade 11, and we have a relatively small senior class with 215 students. I was a little surprised. I look back, similar to our last meeting, comparing fall athletic numbers from this year to last year and having the same number. Last year on September 7th, it wasn't the exact same date, we had 1,002 students. So we had 1,002 last year, we have 1,002 this year. But I also wanted to just show that trend just from mid-August to now, and the busyness that you could just assume that accompanies this within our guidance department and main office as they are enrolling new students. So back on August 14th, we had 964 students enrolled. On September 1st, it was up to 970. First day of school, September 5th, it was up to 997. And then today, 1,002. So obviously, between September 1st and September 5th, students were, they were really registered at that point, but until school officially begins, they're not really considered active. But we did have a lot of, over 38 students really enrolling between mid-August and today. So I just wanted to give you that quick update, and usually October 1st is a big enrollment report for us. So once that happens, I will share those numbers with you at that point too, so you have an understanding. I'll break it down by the 2 towns because we know how critical those numbers are. Next, I just wanted to mention the wellness night that we had last week. I'm not sure if any of our members here were able to participate or attend that. Okay.
Really well done.
Yeah, we had the Massachusetts Brain Injury Association. They gave a presentation. So it started out with really the science of concussions and what's happening within the brain when there is some type of brain injury. It was followed up by someone from the Brain Injury Association who shared her story. She was a college freshman, a cheerleader, had a very serious fall and a traumatic brain injury, and she just talked about her struggles after that and her challenges that she went through in a very long recovery, battling her injuries. And then to wrap it up, we had one of our own students who who's now a junior, but she talked about a concussion that she sustained the summer going into her freshman year, and how she still isn't playing sports because of the severity of the concussion that she had. So she was able to share that with her peers as well. So it was very well put together, and just the different stories. I think it was, the audience was really held on each story, and it was a very good night.
Very well done, is what I've heard.
Yeah, it was.
More than a few people.
So. We have our students, a group called Raiders Reaching Out. They are collecting donations this week during lunches to give to the American Red Cross to help victims of both hurricanes Harvey and Irma. So just to tell the school committee and the public, students certainly were affected by that and wanted to, they were trying to do what they can to help out people in Texas and in Florida. There is another event coming up in a couple of weeks. Wednesday, September 27th. It's called A Roadmap to College Planning. It's at 6:30 in the Performing Arts Center. This is put on by the guidance department. The intended audience is really seniors and their parents, but juniors and their parents are also welcome to attend. But it's to talk about the college application process, college searches, college visits, financial aid, standardized admissions tests, writing their essay, and all of those facets relating to the college admissions process. So we do have that. I'm not sure if any of our, I'm hoping to attend with my daughter, who's a junior. I'm not sure if Mrs. Gagliardi, if
Write
you're
down.
doing the same. But it's not too early to start that process, so I encourage parents and their students to attend that night. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? Actually, I should have said this before Mr. Marshall left. On Saturday, we had a nice ceremony outside where we had this 26-foot trailer that was donated from the David M. Morey's Music Foundation to the Friends of Music. If you leave tonight and you go out by Grandview, by the gas station, you'll see the trailer in the parking lot by the sign. It was just decaled today, so it has Somerset Berkeley logos on the side, and it was over a $10,000 donation from the David M. Morey's Foundation to our students. So they have, they continue to demonstrate their generosity and support of our music programs for both Somerset and Somerset Berkeley. And I think this brings their total up to over $65,000 in equipment and other things over the past several years.
As a former band mom, I can sympathize with what a big contribution that is. Because we used to watch, we used to go to all the band shows and see the other schools that had these big trailers, and we'd be like with a couple of trucks taking all our equipment. So to have our own trailer is great. So yeah, thank you to the foundation for all they do.
That's tremendously generous.
Okay.
Next section of the agenda is budget and financial matters. First item is approval of monthly invoices. We have a number of invoices here to be reviewed and signed. Does anyone have any questions on any of them? No? Second item is short-term bond anticipation note band rollover for building project. Mrs. Alvarez, do you have any information on that?
So for the building project is coming to a close finally. We just received our final draft audit from the MSBA on Tuesday of this week. So we are aware of a tentative amount we are still owed from the MSBA, which they withhold 5% of the last project costs. So we do have a tentative number which I will be working on projecting to see how much our final long-term borrowing will be. Because of things that we have no control over as far as the schedule with the MSBA, we are not slated to get our final reimbursement, which is about $1.7 million, until the earliest, which is the third week of November. Because of that payment date, our current existing short-term obligations, which at that point we were hoping to have the money so we would know what our long-term obligation would be for our final bonding in November, there's a little risk involved with that MSBA payment coming in and our final borrowing amount being due. So with that being said, for the sake of cash flow purposes, what I would suggest that the school committee does is extend that short-term borrowing 2 months until January. At that point, we will have the money from the MSBA. We will be able to close out all of our long-term borrowings. That 2 weeks in November, it just really, we are at risk as far as a cash flow perspective is concerned. And I just don't want to take that risk. So I did speak with our financial advisor from Unibank, and I said, can we just extend it a month? Because at that point, we will have the money by then, hopefully. And she said, December typically is not the best market time. I guess there's a lot of competition, not in a good way. So we would not necessarily get the best financial rate if we did a long-term borrowing in December. So she suggested we wait until January. So the attachment that you have allows, the attachment, I've been emailing all day. The document that you have is basically what the draft, the bond anticipation note would look like to extend it for 2 months. And then the back page is what our proposed timeline would be for the final borrowing of about $2 million to get us to close up the project completely. At that point, the only monies we really should have in the project, once we do our final bonding, is really just the bond premiums that we've collected as a result of doing 5 different bonds. What we do is we reduce the member town's assessment, a portion of that every year until the bond's paid off. So that's really the only cash that would be in that fund going forward for the next 25 years. But essentially, this is the recommended timeline. I do suggest that we roll the November short-term borrowing for another 2 months just to make sure that in any event, the MSBA withholds that payment. We're not at risk for cash flow purposes, so.
And that will take us past the January timeframe, which she said is not the best time to.
It will take us past December, so we'll bond in, well, if you look at the, I mean, it's essentially the end of
It's the end.
January where we would sign the document saying, you know, but at that point, we would have the interest rate locked in for the January school committee meeting, so.
Do we have any idea what the cost of 2 extra months?
It's about 7,000.
Oh.
Can you explain the required pay down? Oh, say the 51,000 isn't required.
So a required pay down is if you do a long-term or a short-term borrowing for 30 years, if you have not paid it off within 3 years, like you don't do a long-term, you don't switch it to a bond like a long-term borrowing, you have to pay 1/20th of what that principal amount is. So because this band it's essentially in its second year, we do have to pay down a portion of it, which we did budget for in our capital budget for FY18.
Yeah.
So it's fine, it's covered, so we did anticipate this, but it's good. I mean, it's basically like you're paying principal off, so you're not gonna have to pay interest on it, which we did budget for, so.
So do we need to take a vote to approve?
It would be good if you would allow me to move forward with our financial advisor to start the paperwork so we can extend it for another 2 months, because she does, if you look at the timeline, she does need to have kind of an answer sooner than later, so.
So do we need to take a vote to give you approval to do that, or?
If you wouldn't mind.
Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve approaching the financial advisor for information to extend our short-term borrowings by 2 months.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is acceptance of a donation of $1,000. I skipped one. Sorry. Next one on the agenda is athletic activity fee process update. Mrs. Albanaz?
Yes. Okay, so I didn't really give you any documentation as far as that concerned. I just wanted to kind of give you some anecdotal information, and I can't find my paper. So we started collections for the athletic fees for the fall season the second week of July. To date, I know Mr. Schoonover updated the school committee at the last meeting as far as counts and how they've pretty much stayed consistent with prior years, so the athletic fees hasn't really dipped into the counts. We are currently about, as of Monday, we were 2,000 over what we budgeted for collections for the fall season. And we've actually still received more payments through since Monday, so it's actually gonna be more than 2,000. Overall, we have about 290 students who have paid, 6 who have been approved a waiver, and 37 that were on free and reduced lunch that have also had the fee waived, so. I don't know if that's more than what you wanted, or?
So I have a question on that.
Sure.
I was gonna say about the matters. So it was brought to my attention actually today before the meeting that there are several students that have been waiting for the refunds because they didn't make the team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been some time. So when would the checks be expected to these parents?
So Mr. Francis finalized the rosters. I believe it was this week he sent coaches final rosters. I started receiving requests for refunds. There is a form they have to fill out last week. So those refunds are on one of your bill schedules tonight, so they will have the check tomorrow issued to them.
So again, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we were going to wait until kids were accepted on a team before
We are.
We
The
would
rosters are
accept
finalized.
payment. So these are just people that paid before.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So maybe just make note people shouldn't pay before until their kids make a team because it's probably more work and parents have to wait for the refund.
It's their own preference. I wouldn't advise either way. It's really just a personal preference for the parents.
And then maybe you could present, based on those numbers of, you know, the numbers that were presented before, people that had paid and they thought they were going to be on the team, but there is a vast amount of kids that maybe have paid, or you count in the numbers that are not on teams anymore.
There was a total of 12 students who were cut from boys soccer and volleyball, I think. The list was sent to me earlier. I will be processing refunds if they have paid. There was only 2 of them that had paid, so those refunds will be processed. Again, I only know once Mr. Francis sends me the rosters of which kids have paid and which ones have not made the team. And then I look and see if they paid, and if they haven't paid, we process a refund accordingly.
So that $2,000 over what was budgeted, that is not everybody has paid yet?
As of right now, I would say there's probably 6 to 8 kids who have made the team that have not paid, and Mr. Francis actually emailed those parents today.
And then there are also kids who have paid, who are counted in that $2,000, who would be receiving a refund.
No, I did not count the kids that have paid, and they will be getting a refund.
Ah, okay.
No, there's about 10 refund checks in there. Yeah.
Okay. Great, thanks.
So do you have any thoughts on how the process has been going? Has it been going smoothly? Are you pleased with how this went? This is the first time, or are there things that we should look at changing in the future?
It's not an efficient process, but it really comes down to a decision of the school committee as far as collecting payments when they're registered on Family ID. That is the most streamlined process. It's a one-stop shop, and then at that point we can process refunds electronically. What has happened over the last 2 weeks is that every day I've been going in to see who's been paying online, and we've had some kids who have paid their school lunch account thinking it was their athletic fee, and so we've had to do a manual transfer that way. I've had phone calls from Mr. Francis about, or emails from him saying, I just got a check, and we had a lot of manual checks that came in at the last minute. I think it was after the wellness night people paid. So we've had to deal with that, updating payment spreadsheets, getting those deposited. There was some cash that came in, which I didn't really like, but it's fine. It's been an everyday task for the last 3 weeks for me.
So that there's ways that the process can be improved.
There is one way that the process can be improved, but it would require the students to pay when they register for a sport.
Which I don't agree with, because again, here we are with refunds, and parents are still waiting for them. And I think that's unnecessary. It's bad enough that these kids are crushed because they didn't make the team, and they practiced, they were part of it for months, and I know some kids that are very depressed over it, and now on top of it, they have to wait for money, or parents have to beg for their money back, so I do not agree with the process. I don't agree with user fees in the first place. I think you're gonna see a decrease in enrollment next year when there's tons of kids sitting on the sidelines and they pay the money, and we have a policy, there's no active participation for the fees, so we'll see what happens, but I think part of the process could be when they make a team, that's when they would pay. So if they know about it.
And they did know about that. That was communicated to them, that payments are made before the first game. But we got a lot of parents that paid in July and August, and they hadn't even paid, they haven't started playing yet. So it really is a preference of what the parent wanted to do. But the ones that didn't, and they were kind of doing it last minute, those were the tasks that were time consuming over the last 3 weeks.
And this was the first time. So I mean, it's something new, and I think whatever has transpired, they're more aware of it, they'll be more attentive next year, and I think it'll get smoother as time goes on, because
we did have
this is the first time out of the box.
Yeah, we did have some technology glitches as far as my school books, so hopefully those will be ironed out for the winter season. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is, even though I was trying to skip to it a second ago, acceptance of a donation of $1,000 from the Fisher Bus Company to the Robotics Club. Anyone have any information on that?
Okay. Well, I know Mr. Cook, he received $1,000 from Fisher Bus to help with the robotics program. If you recall, last year, Mr. Croak was here with several of his students, and they gave us a presentation of the robot that they had created, that they were using in the competitions last year. At the time, Mr. Croak shared with us about needing to construct really the course or whatever that they compete on. And I believe the funds are to help with that part of it, and just to continue to build this robotics program and support the investment that it requires, because it does cost something to enter competitions, to construct this robot, whatever it is that they have. and also to build the competition layout each year.
So that money will sit in the student activity account for the robotics club?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you to Fisher Bus, 'cause
Yes, I do, Fisher.
that's a great club that we hope will continue to grow.
Mhm.
So we do have a revolving account for the
Is that,
robotics club already?
You do not?
so it's gonna be,
We were going to try to establish it tonight, but-
so right now, I guess that's gonna be in the principal's, what's the principal's revolving, the student account?
Oh, he has a fund that if he gets miscellaneous revenue sources in, like when we had the foreign exchange student, you know, that's where it's kind of like, that's where miscellaneous money that comes in gets deposited because the robotics club isn't a formal established student activity fund at the moment.
So do we need to vote to establish that one or no? Or to establish that?
Not at this point, because there are other factors. Yeah, we'll have a paying advisor, you know, little
Okay.
things like that that we would have to determine.
Okay.
Or consider, yeah.
So you'll come back to us with that?
Yes.
Sure.
Well, we should take the money.
Right.
Yes.
It's still a donation to the school
So do
district.
we still have to vote on that, accepting the donation or?
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be good.
How can we be certain that money's gonna be used for robotics if it's not specifically in an account for robotics?
She's gonna set it up.
I'll make sure of it.
I trust you.
They'll be coming for it, so it's not like I can say no, so.
Mr. Croak knows us there.
I'm looking for a motion to accept a donation of $1,000 from Fisher Bus Company to be used for this robotics program at the high school.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Next section on the agenda is policy. The only item we have under that this evening is proposed policy changes, second reading of the facilities use policy. We got this policy at our last meeting. Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
Yes, I do. I have two concerns. The first concern is under the gymnasium that no food or drink is allowed, and I am concerned that kids that are practicing in the gymnasium can't even drink water, and I think water should be allowed while kids are practicing. That probably should be specified unless I'm missing it. I think we run risk of kids not being hydrated and passing out on the gymnasium floor.
What
I thought it
pages
said
are on this?
food or drink is allowed.
No,
Oh,
no,
no.
no.
Page 17,
Yeah,
gymnasium.
Page
Okay.
17,
Which bullet, Mrs.
Page
Durham?
17,
third bullet.
third bullet. The no is on the end of
Yeah.
the third
Oh.
line.
Maybe we should add it with the exception of water.
Right,
Okay.
I would be
I
okay.
can add that, that's not a problem.
I think that's important. And the other is, I just can't approve the policy because we still have alcohol out on premises for rentals, and I do not agree with any alcohol in the school building.
But that's only on a case-by-case basis as voted by the school committee, right?
Right, I disagreed with it when it was first proposed, and I was outvoted. And as long as it's in the policy that people are allowed to have alcoholic beverages here in our building, I will not approve the facility use policy.
And I'm sorry, I'm just coming in late, but just hearing when I first heard this a couple of years ago, or when it was first brought up with the Chamber of Commerce, I think, the word alcohol in school should never be together. So I would never support anything that has anything to do with alcohol, school in the same sentence, in the same location. If you feel like you would want to have alcohol, then I would recommend looking at a place like Venus de Milo or Agoros or something like that, an actual banquet hall, but having a bartender or someone, because the other thing that I'm always concerned is people wander and they may leave a bottle or something or a cup of something somewhere that the custodians may not see, and the next thing you know, there's a kid that has it the next morning. It just doesn't make sense to me. I thought this was a done deal. I thought we had never, at least when I read it in the paper, that I think the Chamber of Commerce actually felt that this doesn't make, you know what?
No, no.
We don't need
That
it or
was
whatever,
okay.
or,
That was okay.
but to me, I think no one should, the alcohol, school property,
And it's other schools.
and then in that case, if you're renting, should people be allowed to smoke outside? You know, it goes to the whole thing, again, like, you're renting the facility, should they be allowed to smoke because you're allowing them to drink? It's just wrong, so.
So, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, I just don't see the issue, especially if it's done on a case-by-case basis. I think that, in particular, that event, which was scheduled, I want to say now, 4 years ago, was a business after hours. It was meant to bring the business community into the school to look at it. There were no it wasn't a student event. I think, again, it would only be on a case-by-case basis and with required approval from the school committee. Anytime you have something like that, you also have to get a license, and you can only use licensed servers in an event. It would be a rare instance, and it may not ever happen if the committee doesn't approve it. So I think leaving it in the policy allows for it. I also just, again, this is my opinion, I think it's rather naive to think that our students are not in any place where there is alcohol. And I think that they're, just again, my opinion.
Not in public schools.
But I think there is a value to representing the fact that there is a, let's say, an appropriate use for it and versus an appropriate use. I think, again, we would never have it at an event where it was meant to entertain families or students. You think about Spirit of Somerset, they serve alcohol there, that's a family event. It's not unheard of for it to be there. This is, if we think about community use of school facilities, I don't have the concerns that you do. I mean, I'm not discounting it, but I feel like if we leave it in there, it allows for the door to be open in those very rare cases, and only if the school committee approves it. So that's my opinion.
And I respect your opinion, I really do. It's just, again, anyone that would like to rent this facility, and the very first word is, or we're going to serve alcoholic beverages, my answer is no. Because
What if it's not the very first word?
it doesn't make a difference. It's still, if you can't have if your function requires alcohol, this is not I don't want people to even consider, oh, let's think about having an event at Somerset Berkeley Regional High School, and we're going to apply for a license for alcohol. I don't even want that on the same sentence. If that is their purpose, if they feel that they would like alcohol in the premises, please go somewhere else where people already have licenses for it. We already have many locations in Somerset that can house you, that already has a liquor license. They have the correct bar, they have the system in place. We don't. This place should be for a gathering. I believe we should rent it out, but if you feel that you need alcohol, go somewhere else. I don't want your business. I don't want the 200 or 300. How much is it? How much is it to rent the facility?
Depends on the...
Depends.
Yeah.
Give me a
Few hundred
how much?
Few $100s.
I don't want that few $100s that's tied into alcohol. None of us should want that. I'll be honest with you, none of us should ever want alcohol on the premises of schools. That's just I respect your opinion,
right.
and you would like to bring people, but for $200, it's just not worth it. I don't care, it's just go somewhere else. I don't want you on my because you know what? It's not the right place. This is for educational, this is for a gathering, social gathering, but it doesn't need to require alcohol.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle. If I can just add, from the Chamber of Commerce event, they have held at other schools that do not allow alcohol. And again, I'll just repeat what I said 4 years ago, is I think we should lead by an example, and we should show that we can have events and you can have a good time without alcohol, and we should lead that by example. And again, that is my opinion.
Has there been an event that included alcohol held here at the high school since its opening?
No.
So
There was not.
so this item number 16 under regulations governing facility use provides that if someone wanted to have an event of that nature, they'd have to come before us and apply for it?
Right.
So just including it,
It would require a separate vote
correct.
for that particular aspect.
So anytime, if it ever happened, and it hasn't happened yet, if someone wanted to have an event here that involved alcohol, they could approach us for permission.
And we
The
could still
permission is
deny.
not implied.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mr. Larrabee, I would just, to me, I don't think we should even entertain now or any type of an event in the future that it may even be a consideration for us. This is a public school. This is not a university. If it was a university, I would differ. But this is a public school that has school-age students. A majority of our students are not even in the voting age. A majority. And when I say majority, I'm probably like 99% of them. But yet we're going to have an activity in the school that someone is renting for $200, and we're going to allow them to bring an alcoholic beverage, a mobile bartending service in here. Why do we? I don't think we're at that point yet. Nor should we ever be at that point. You know, I wouldn't want this at my middle schools. I wouldn't want this at my elementaries. But yet we're going to do it at our high school. If we should be sending a clear message. If there are locations that people do socially drink, but if you do want that, Somerset Berkeley Regional High School should not even be a consideration. You should be looking at it somewhere else. Go to the Progressive Club. Go to, I can name many locations in Somerset. Somerset Public School should not, Somerset Berkeley Regional High School or Somerset Public Schools should not even be considered. Period. And I don't care if it's 10 years from now, I don't care if it's 3 years from now, it should not be considered.
Again,
So do we want to take a vote on the policy as it's written, or do we want to defer it till we have a greater number of members in attendance to continue the conversation? Is it critical that this gets approved tonight, Lindsay, or Mrs. Alvarez?
It's fine. I mean, it would be nice to have the process in place now, because there are applications coming in, but.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the policy striking the language from alcohol.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments, or?
I won't vote in favor of that, but it's certainly fine for you to put that forward. I don't have the same concerns, especially with the safeguards put in place. I just don't.
Okay, so vote on the motion. All in
Can
favor?
we have a roll call, please?
Yeah,
Sure.
it's fine.
So roll call, Mr. Ghilarducci?
I vote aye for the no.
So you're voting no on,
No.
on the motion?
I'm voting, the motion is to strike it.
To approve as written minus the language of any alcohol on the
Okay,
premises.
but I vote for that, yes. I vote aye for that.
So aye for that, okay. This is,
I don't know.
Aye.
Aye.
no. So that's 3 aye, 2 no, so the policy is approved, striking number 16.
But did you also change the other reference to the
Oh, yes,
gym,
under
with the
gymnasium.
exception of water? Yes.
Do we need to take another vote on that, or?
Yeah, we could.
Okay.
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion to amend the gymnasium policy to add order is allowed to the Junior Museum for activities.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did you want that?
Unanimous.
Vote for all of that.
No, no, no,
Okay.
just,
All right, so the next section of the agenda is other matters and information. First item we have is report on virtual high school program. Mr. Schoonover?
Sure. At our last meeting, I forget which member requested this information, but just to get an update on virtual high school. So as of today, these are the courses. You do have a document in your packet. I also emailed it to everyone earlier. I think it's the last, that's it. So, don't you?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So just to show you the courses that some of our students are taking, we do have 19 students currently taking courses. You'll see, I did break it down in the third column. If it is a first semester course, so S1, versus a full year course, our AP courses do last for the entire year. So there will be some additional courses that students take during semester 2. We just don't know what those are yet. But the courses that you can see here, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different AP courses that students are participating in. AP French and Language has 2 students, and that's because we had low enrollment in that course and really our last level of French. And when we were making some reductions to our staffing and looking at the world language department, this is one of those areas that we knew we only had just a few students who were interested in taking French 4. So we offered them to take the online version instead. And we do have 2 of the 3 or 4 students who chose to do that. We have AP Human Geography, AP Music Theory, which used to be a course here. We did run it 1 year. I think we only had 3 students in it. It just didn't have the numbers to sustain it. So instead now our students who are interested in that, we offer them the VHS. AP Spanish, we have 1 student, AP Computer Science 1, AP Economics. We always have several students taking AP Econ each year. We have 2 students. And although we offer AP Statistics, we do have 2 students taking it through virtual high school because they couldn't fit in their schedule. There are a lot of times where if you are taking AP Physics, AP Calculus, you want to take AP Statistics, some other specialty course, you want to be in the band, you have to, there's always going to be a conflict here or there, and for a few students who had that conflict and they couldn't fit AP Statistics in their normal schedule here, we offered them, taking them the option through virtual high school. But in addition to the AP classes, you can see the other languages that students are taking. We have a student taking German, a student taking Russian, business and personal law, 3 students taking anatomy and physiology. That's another situation where we run the course, but due to schedule conflicts, the students wanted it, but couldn't fit it in, so they're taking it through this method. And you can see some of the other courses that are offered as well. So a AP course counts as 2 seats because it runs both semesters. So we currently have a total of 22 students, but occupying 32 seats. We budgeted for 25 seats, so this is over what we originally budgeted, but because we weren't able to find a computer science teacher, we also we're using those funds to encourage students to take, and hopefully, I was hoping more students would take computer science through virtual high school, but we will be using some of the funds there to support students in this area. And for comparison, you can see that last year we had a total of 19 students and 24 seats. Now, we don't work directly through the virtual high school collaborative for this. We go through an educational collaborative in Massachusetts called Accept, which is out of Natick, Mass. And because they handle a lot of the virtual high school enrollments for school districts, they buy their seats in bulk, and we're able to purchase the seats for $300 per semester. So every seat is considered $300. So the AP classes, it's really costing us $600. If we went directly through VHS, it would be $425 per seat. So we are saving money by working with the Accept Collaborative to do this. So we had budgeted $7,500 for the 25 seats. It's well worth that investment to offer students these courses that either we can't fit into our schedule, that we don't have the numbers to run the courses, or to help those students who are looking to get some courses that they just can't fit in. I'm not sure if you have specific questions about VHS.
This still counts for credit towards their
Absolutely.
GPA
Mhm.
and all that. And we're still looking to, you'll still pursue trying to bring in a computer science and stuff.
Definitely.
Right?
But now that the school year started, that's one of those things where we can't run the courses. But yes, we will start that process again much earlier this year. And hopefully begin that maybe midway through the year, December, January, looking for a teacher for next year.
Can I ask, how does students know about virtual high school? Because I know my son knew about it, but I had heard that some kids weren't really familiar with it, so.
Guidance counselors obviously know about it. It's in our handbook, that the options are there. From what I understand, most students, if they read the handbook, if they know, it's there.
Okay.
But, and our virtual high school students work at that end of the library. Almost every period you can come in here and you'll see a group of students sitting at the bank of computers against that far wall. And everyone knows that that's the virtual high school section of the library. So.
That was going to be my other question. How do they fit it in? So in a study, they can elect to come to the library and take their classes?
Yes. And a lot of this work can also be done at home. It doesn't have to be done within the school schedule, but we do offer them that space, access to those computers so that they can come here during a structured study to get on the computer and do as much work as they can during the school day.
And parents are paying the $300?
We are. This doesn't cost the students anything.
So kids that are accepted to do this, is there a criteria or any student that's interested?
Any student can do this.
Have we seen a demand for virtual high school classes increase over the past few years? Or obviously there's a slight incremental increase over last year.
Well, there's that increase, but obviously with AP French, we were expecting a few more this year. We're AP Computer Science, we had a few students who were interested to take that. But it was just also the nature of the schedule. And if we consolidate classes, if we had a reduction in world language department, and that resulted in not offering students something, so virtual high school is our fallback. If that happens a little bit more, virtual high school may be something that we have to fall back on, rely on, to still make sure that if students want to continue a program they've already started, or they have an interest, that we'll do that. So I think there's a little bit more interest, and students also know that online learning is, when they go to college, chances are they're going to have some type of online learning experience, or even for their jobs. More and more is required that way, and frankly, I'm not saying it's through VHS. I would love at some point every student to experience one online course before they graduate, because I think that will really prepare them for life after high school. We're going to get there, so I do see these numbers growing in time.
We'll have to prepare the budget for it, but it would be great to have it, one requirement.
And then through virtual high school, there are options where if we had a teacher who taught a course for VHS, we automatically get a certain number of seats. So we would make arrangements with that teacher to either have a reduction in the classes, or to give them a stipend to teach something outside of their regular workday. But just the nature of us having a teacher, we would get, I think it's 15 or 20 seats at no cost. So there's that benefit too that we could begin to explore.
Like I said, I absolutely love that vision, because that's exactly right. Kids need to be able to do it online. And I would like to see that definitely come up. So maybe even a class in school that the kids participate more of a teacher kind of talking to the class and then learning maybe even from home, maybe just having that experience. I mean, I don't know, to be creative. I just think they could use that, definitely.
And as we begin the one-to-one, we have to establish that culture here first, and then once we do, that is exactly how one of the ways that I see our one-to-one program growing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for for that update.
You're welcome.
Summer retreat follow-up is the next item. Mrs. Gagliardi?
I apologize to the committee. I'd like the opportunity to defer this one more time. I just didn't have a chance to draft the minutes for the session.
So defer.
Please.
Next item is Somerset and Berkeley K-8 updates. Do we have an update from Somerset K-8?
Sorry, I can do this. There was one discussion during our meeting in K-8. When I was given my updates for the region, on the K-8 side with our report, one of our school members, Mr. Patello, asked, did we in fact lose funding when we cut children from playing sports? Because basically, we lost, that was $1,500 that we reduced, except because we cut 10 kids from one of the sports. We kind of mentioned to him that, asking parents to pay for their child to play in a sport when they're not going to be able to play, why would we take money from them? And not only that, in that case, why have tryouts? Might as well just take everyone onto the team. So that was something that was discussed regarding the region portion. And I'm just getting my notes.
We did address that at the beginning. We did have a report on that, Mr. Machado. So,
Looks like I mentioned that there was some kids waiting for refunds.
Oh, okay, all right, well, that I just wanted to let,
right.
talk about it in the K-8 side, not that we have any jurisdiction anyhow. Let me just get my notes.
Right, so Mr. Patello was saying, we had 52 students who came, 52 athletes who came out for boys varsity or boys soccer. We reduced JV and varsity combined, had 42 students who were saying, well, we cut 10. So we really, potentially we lost $1,500 in revenue by cutting those 10 students. Then we said, well, otherwise we would have 26 students on each of the JV and varsity soccer teams, when only 11 players on the field at one time. So we need to balance what's actually best for the team in terms of the number of students. Otherwise, we're going to have a number of students who are just riding the bench, and they can't even participate in practice because there would be too many students. So that was the discussion at the end of the meeting.
And the intent wasn't to,
Right.
for that to happen.
Right.
It was just basically to supplement some of the lost revenue, so. I have my notes up. We did speak quickly about bus transportation. It's something that we are considering hiring a consultant or some type of manner, either a stipend position or something. We may end up bringing it to the high school because it may affect the high school at one portion. We're not looking for funding or anything like that, but we may want obviously the high school to be part of this because of, it may affect your buses as well. And we don't want to do, well, probably not. It's usually the other way when it comes to buses. We did have a successful building inspections at all of our schools. We gave a report on that. We did have an update in all of our classroom enrollment for this year. I'm happy to say the highest, there were maybe 3 classes in the district that may have had 26 students, but everything else is lower. We did have a staffing update. I think we still have like 3 positions or 4 positions?
At the time, 5.
5, okay. And we did, and I believe the high school as well, we eliminated the substitute software because it really wasn't being used by our administration. They prefer that pick up the call. And I think the biggest piece is where we reviewed, our subcommittee reviewed and recommended some items in section 8 of the policy book. And
We're going through the whole policy.
We're going through the whole policy, but we did not act on it, and I think that was basically it. And the only other great thing, as you know, Dave Morris donated the trailer for the high school, which is great, but it didn't stop there. They also donated a boom box for us as well, which was also another almost $1,000. So they
Wow.
continue to do great work. So not only for the high school, but also what we continue to do at the K-8 level as well.
Thank you.
And the only thing last week on Monday when I was meeting with them, I give them a report, and I'll be doing the same, but I would also like any feedback that you would like to share down to the region. So whenever you, during the meeting, if there's any feedback, like, hey, could your committee look into this, you know, feel free to address it here, and I'll be sure to send it to the membership as well.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Mr. Gildaducci?
Well, since we haven't had a school committee meeting as yet, the thing I can report on, I was there for opening day, which was on September 1st, and we welcomed back the teachers, and we were fortunate enough that we were able to welcome back more teachers than we thought we were going to welcome back. And the school's in fantastic shape. Everything looks great. And at our next meeting, I'll be able to report on what happens at the school.
The only thing I have to add to that is the override process in Berkeley will be getting moved in October. So I'll be providing this committee with updates as that process starts all over again.
So when you say it's going to begin anew, is that the campaign, is there a vote scheduled yet?
No,
Not
nothing
yet.
scheduled. So the beginning of the process for any override is to approach the Board of Selectmen and get their approval to put the override before the voters.
Okay.
So just like the last process we just followed, there's generally a period of time where that's discussed and decided upon. So that will begin hopefully in October, and we'll make sure everyone here is well apprised as to what's going on. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of prior meetings. Looking for a motion to approve the open session minutes of August 29th, 2017, as long as there's no questions or concerns.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
So
One abstention.
four approve, one abstention.
Thank you.
And I'm looking for a motion to approve the executive session minutes of August 29th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
One abstention.
Thank you.
4 in the affirmative, 1 abstention. Next item is topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Do not believe we have anything. Action items for future meetings. Do you have any
Yes.
deliverables?
I did. We put on the agenda for next time, a look at the Wi-Fi service at the high school, because I'm hearing that the computers are very slow. They're taking like 5 minutes to load for the students. I'm not sure if they can handle the one-to-one Chromebooks. So I would really like an update to see how that's working.
I do believe that we'll have a discussion about parking at the next meeting as well.
Great.
All right, any other comments from the committee? Next section is public input. Do we have any input from the public?
Jim's a little lost, he forgot his, be the first time. I got just 2 little quick things. This art for all state that they presented, I thought that was just amazing. Very right, but I think, did she say that they haven't done this in 13 years?
We haven't had a student go through this process in about 13 years.
But do we plan on having somebody there every year now?
Oh, yeah.
Well, nominating students each year, that's what Mrs. Troutman
I think that was
suggested.
very, very nice to see that. And number 2, the folks that donated this, well, we're up to $65,000. Who is this group?
The David Morris Foundation.
Right.
It was an individual who grew up in Somerset, who passed away, who had a great love for music. So his family and friends decided to honor his memory by creating this foundation. And for, I don't know how many years now, they've gathered together. I think they do 1 or 2 fundraisers each year. One is a bike run in June.
Oh, Victor, this is the guy who comes.
That was the
The
job.
bicycle.
Now I know who it is.
Yeah.
And they raise, and
65,000.
they typically will go out and buy the equipment that the schools will need. They ask for a wish list, and it's all focused on education. They do a phenomenal job. Yeah.
They work closely with Mr. Marshall, and they always, any instrument that needs to be repaired, they will handle that. They pay for any repair of music. And then, I guess it was last year or the year before, he needed a special saxophone. They bought it for him. So, I mean, they're just wonderful. They just, anything that's needed in the orchestra or band, they're willing to reimburse Mr. Marshall and give him the funds to do it.
I believe they
I'm
also.
sure that George has done a great story on that group, all right?
It's in the paper.
See, that's what George, whoa, okay, beautiful.
I believe they've also given student scholarships each year as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
At senior night. And,
They're amazing. They're wonderful people.
and this past year, they had their at their bike run. They had some of the former students who had received scholarships from them in years past. They brought them back as part of the program.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Michelle? You're the one that brought up no alcohol on the premises. Has there ever been an occasion where they have had alcohol in the premises?
To my knowledge, in my 12 years, no. And I hope it stays that way forever.
Here's the answer, no.
Old school, yes, though.
Yeah, we have that event there.
But you know the ironic thing about that though, Victor? Nobody ever stepped out of line at that part. I was there with my family and group. That was very, very well organized and very well done. But there's two sides of everything, though. You realize that?
So do we adjourn this meeting to open the next one, or? Because we have a joint session scheduled for 8:30, so do we take a formal vote to adjourn this one?
Actually, yeah. Should we?
Stay in session?
I think we just need to stay in session, and then the Somerset committee will open.
Okay.
But we could take a
10-minute break. All right. So we're going to take a 10-minute break until the joint session begins at 8:30.
I'm going to call this meeting to order at 8:35. Due notice have been posted. Let the record show that this meeting is being electronically recorded. If anybody in the audience at this time would also like to record, please let the chairs know at this time. We're going to have the roll call. I was going to say Mr. Pierce. Let me go down a little further. Mr. Patel? Here. Mrs. Rothwell? Here. Mr. Crook? Here. Mrs. Tara?
Here.
And the chair is here is also. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to conduct strategy in respect to collective bargaining of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 93, Local 1701, ASME Unit, Clerical, and the Somerset Teachers Association, STA Units A and B, to consider acceptance of the MOA. Wait a minute. Really? Okay. With ASME Custodians Unit, because discussion in open session will have a detrimental effect on committee's bargaining position. I'll entertain a motion.
So,
Second. We're going to have by roll call. Mrs. Rothwell?
Aye.
Mr. Patel? Aye. Mr. Crook? Aye. Mrs. Tara?
aye.
And the chair also votes aye.
And for the meeting of the Somerset Berkeley Regional High School School Committee, same motion pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 93, Local 1701, ASME Unit, Clerical, and with the Somerset Teacher Association, STA Units A and B, to consider acceptance of the Memorandum of Agreement with ASME Custodian Unit, because discussion in open session may have a detrimental effect on the committee's bargaining position.
So moved.
Second.
So by roll call, Mrs. Tara?
Aye.
Mr. Machado?
Aye.
Mrs. Gagliardi?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Will we be
We will
returning?
be returning. There is a couple items also. We will be returning to open session.
I think we'll be.
So are we going to go to the principals?
yes.
The Somerset Berkeley Regional High School School Committee is returning to open session.
Our next item, under new business, we have to vote on the MOA of the Ask Me custodian unit. I don't know if who made the motion before at our meeting? In our executive session?
Robert, do you have, who made the motion for the custodial?
Dean and Victor.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOA for the custodial union.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mrs. Tara, seconded by Mr. Crook. By roll call, Mr. Vitello? Aye. Mrs. Rothwell?
Aye.
Mr. Crook?
Aye.
Mrs. Tara?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
And on behalf of the Somerset Berkeley Regional High School, I'll accept a motion to the same effect.
So moved?
Second.
By roll call, Mr. Machado?
Aye.
Mrs. Terra?
Aye.
Mrs. Gagliardi?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Okay. Next item is bus transportation contract negotiations, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent and Mrs. Albanese.
So this was requested to be put on an agenda because we have to talk about timeline as far as our current busing contract. We're currently in the first of it. Well, we had a contract for years 1 through 3. We're on an extension this school year for year 4. We also have an option to extend for next school year for year 5. So it was requested that we talk about a timeline. If we are going to go out to bid, that has to be started sooner than later because we would have to go out to bid around November, roll those rates into the FY19 budget. I wanted to just provide to you, I didn't want to give you the whole transportation contract, so I just gave you some highlights. So the rate right now for a big yellow bus is, and what you're looking at is the actual budget documents. If you were on the budget negotiation, that's what it feels like, the budget negotiation. The budget subcommittee meetings, these are basically the pages that you have that attach and tie to our transportation budget lines. So you have the region on the front, K-8s on the back. Highlights of the contract are currently the buses are $298 per day per bus. You can see that we have 17 buses at the region, 14 are shared with K-8, 3 are just responsible for transporting Berkeley students, which the high school pays 100% of those. Each bus costs about $54,000 a year. K-8, we have 19 buses. And I'm sorry, we reduced that down to 18 this school year. 14 we share with the high school, 4 we pay full cost for the elementary levels. The 5th year extension option, which is also attached to this, is if you can see on the top of page 17, the rate for a big yellow bus does not change from this school year to next school year. There would be no financial impact for buses if we were to go with the 5th year extension. There are some increases as far as the local in-district activities, which is on page 18. Those would go up $5 per hour. And then late buses would go up $5 per late bus per day. But as far as the big yellow buses are concerned, those prices would stay the same for next school year. So we need to make a decision as to whether we're going to do the 5th year extension or start to go out to bid.
So if we keep the 5th year extension, the change is in the out-of-district transportation.
It's athletic transportation, field trips, special ed vans for the ones that, we don't have many that do in-district runs anymore, so it's those types of things.
So in this, on that page 18, it says that school department reserves the right to utilize their own transportation when possible to transport special needs students back and forth. Have we ever talked about the fact that now with our larger fleet, that smaller field trips and things could be possibly accommodated with our own buses, and is that not allowed?
We've already done some trips with our own vans. Some athletic smaller groups have
So we
We've used our
can.
vans, yep.
Mhm.
We have been.
Even with just extending this for the 5th year,
Mhm.
that's totally allowable. Okay.
We can use our own vehicles at any point.
So my point is that if now we have a larger fleet, it might diminish the impact of the only $5 increase, right? For those types of runs, because that's the only real impact or increase in going the 5th-year contract, right?
It's the vans that we do use for in-district, it's the late buses, it's the athletic buses, which I don't think I printed for you as far as that's concerned. That page on the contract, those would go up a little bit, but the buses, the big ticket items would stay the same for next year.
So can I just ask, what do you recommend? Exactly.
I know that we want some changes to this current contract, but if I'm being transparent, having a 0 increase in our transportation for next year is what I would recommend. It's not worth changing the contract to include things like routing software, it's forced. To include things like camera, it's forced. We know, and we've had a relationship with Fisher Bus to bring those things on, and I don't think they're disagreeing with us on that. I just think that if we could wait 1 year and kind of have a full package of what we want, once we get the routing software up and running, which we should have by the end of this year, that would be better. We do run a risk if we do go out to bid that the rates could go up for next year.
I agree with you.
It's a preference of the school committees.
So do you,
I'll just, I really would like some language change in the contract. There are many things, I would like to know where actual stops are for students. We don't have that in our, I would also like that the routes are given to the school a month in advance, or even a few weeks in advance of the start of the school. There are a lot of discussions that I would like, but I have to echo what Mrs. Alvin has said. The risk of adding more expense to get to that point, I think we should just wait until the following year. And I think at the K-8 level, we're also looking at more options. I think we need to get our first off what we're looking for before we actually go into, RFPs and things like that.
So one thing that you mentioned is, like before school starts, we know what the bus routes are. Isn't that a combination of the principals working with Fisher? Right? The Fisher doesn't come up with the bus routes.
You do?
They do.
Okay, I thought the principals always weighed in on that to some degree.
Historically, they may have, and some principals actually have, from what I've heard, and I don't know if Jeff can weigh in, but they used to, some of them, like years ago, used to do the routes, but the principals we have now, especially at the elementary level, they don't live in town, they don't know what the state, so they defer to, and we've deferred to the contractor on those.
Okay, so I thought that was different, but even still, as far as the bus stops, I think that's more of I don't think that's something that's in the contract necessarily. I think it's, hey, go for a ride on the bus, where you stop, okay, you stop at this corner, we can do that. So I don't think that's part of the contract. I think we can, initiate that change.
Yeah, but it's not just, as I mentioned at our last meeting, if you look at the bus routes that are on our website.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's still the same that was 3 years ago, I definitely.
But that's on us, that's not on
Yeah,
Fisher,
and that's, no, but that's the thing, in my opinion, I don't believe the bus company basically, what I heard during one of our subcommittees for the transportation is that they give the route to the bus driver, and the bus driver, adds the new kids, but at no point do we take the kids off,
Okay.
So I definitely think we need to, and honestly, when we go a little further, I think we need someone in our district to work hand in hand with the bus company. It really should, the bus company shouldn't be giving us the route. We should be
And
working,
My other comment is, I think all that can happen with the current contract or current contract extension.
I would just like it in writing eventually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but-
I think it's everyone's goal to have the routes published earlier, the stops published earlier on the websites, to have, they can change obviously, but, like, as Mr. Swinover said, we did have some problems first week of school, or even the week before, parents calling and saying, what bus is my child on, so.
Can I just add, personally, I believe the bus route shouldn't be online. I think it should be somewhere, finding a safety code or encrypted message, something that, like, not everyone can have access to the bus routes. I think we should have something safer going forward.
Since this is such an important issue, and it's likely to play out over a number of years, does it make any sense to try to have one member from each of the two committees work hand in hand with administration to try to facilitate this process and make sure that our concerns are in front of the right people at the right time? It's almost like a negotiation of sorts. So Mr. Pierce had indicated that he thought it would be sensible to try to have some sort of joint collaborative effort, because transportation is such a major part of the budget. It's such an important part of what we do as a district.
Is that in addition to approving a 5-year, so approve a 5th-year extension and then put a negotiating team in place to look at it beyond that?
I think
Just
that
in the
we need
interest
to
of time.
have the we'll just call it a committee, we need to have recommendations for, that won't happen overnight as far as
Right,
changing the current
exactly.
contract. So next year, when we're sitting at the table and I say we have to go out to bid, we've met, these are all the things we want to see thrown in
Right.
there. I
That
think
makes
that's a good time.
And I know we've talked about some things in budget subcommittee things, so.
But this is almost an issue on itself.
Right, yeah, I think that makes sense. I agree with following Mrs. Albanaz's recommendation and taking the 5th year right now so that we can give ourselves time to look at it more in depth.
Yeah, we'll also give the individuals an opportunity to take a good hard look at it.
So you're making a motion for that?
I make a motion that we accepted the Director of Business and Finance's recommendation to extend the contract for a 5th year with Fisher Bus.
Second?
Roll call, or is this just regular? Okay.
This is just right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll entertain a motion that we accept the recommendation of our Director of Business and Finance to extend to take the option of the 5th year.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mrs. Kara, seconded by Mrs. Rothwell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's it.
And before we close, would it be sensible for each of the individual committees at the next opportunity to discuss in more detail the possibility of assigning a member to a subcommittee or task force, or whatever we want to call it?
Yeah, we should probably wait until we have more people.
Yeah,
on our
agreed,
committee.
yeah. We adjourn?
I think that's it.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll also entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mrs. Kara, seconded by Mr. Crook. All in favor?
Aye.